Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we've got some more Eric Dubay. He's put out a new video called How Seasons Work on Flat Earth. And we're kind of hoping that while we watch it all together, he'll actually tell us how seasons work on flat Earth. Alright, oh, and the good news is apparently someone left the theater unlocked, so we get to use the big screen today. Alright, see y'all inside. Alright, everybody settled in? Let's let Eric tell us how seasons work on a flat Earth.
In the flat Earth model, the Sun and Moon luminaries revolve around the Earth once every 24 hours for the Sun, and approximately 25 hours for the Moon, illuminating like spotlights the areas over which they pass.
Wow, that's a lot of nonsense to pack in the first few seconds. Okay, first, there is no flat Earth model. We've been asking for one, but so far, nada. Next, the graphic shows paths for the Sun hovering over the Earth, moving in circles. What's keeping it up there? If everything is buoyancy and density, as flat earthers claim, are we to assume that the Sun, and of course the Moon as well, are both less dense than air? And then we have a little matter of them moving in circles. Objects don't like to move in circles. In fact, without a centripetal force applied, they don't. They move in straight lines until they're acted upon by another force. We're off to a great start.
The Sun's annual journey from tropic to tropic, solstice to solstice, is what determines the length and character of days, nights, and seasons. This is why equatorial regions experience almost year-round summer and heat, while higher latitudes north and especially south experience more distinct seasons with harsh winters.
Okay, so not only is the Sun moving in a circle, but the size of the circle changes. So the invisible string tied to a pole at the center of their space pizza that acts as a centripetal force apparently changes length. Interesting.
The heliocentric model claims seasons change based on the ball Earth's alleged axial tilt and elliptical orbit around the Sun. Their flawed current model even places us closest to the Sun, 91,400,000 miles, in January, when it is actually winter, and farthest from the Sun, 94,500,000 miles, in July, when it's actually summer throughout much of the Earth. They say due to the ball Earth's tilt, different places receive different amounts of direct sunlight, and that is what produces the seasonal and temperature changes. This makes little sense, however, because if the Sun's heat travels over 90 million miles to reach the ball Earth, how could a slight tilt, a mere few thousand miles maximum, negate the Sun's 90 million mile journey, giving us simultaneous tropical summers and Antarctic winters?
Well, that's Eric, isn't it? I don't understand that, therefore it isn't true. You had the whole explanation there, Eric, and it doesn't have any of the gaping holes that your explanation has. I see a drawing is needed here. Okay, Eric, here's how it works. Let's say the vertical line is an area of the Earth's surface. Let's say it's a mile. Each of the horizontal arrows, we're going to call each one of those 1 unit of radiant energy coming in from the Sun. Doesn't matter what the units are, we've got 5 units of radiant energy coming towards the surface of the Earth. On this slide, note the little yellow dots. These represent the surface of the Earth absorbing 1 unit of radiant energy from the Sun per minute. Now let's tilt that area of land away from the incoming radiant energy. And there's those little yellow dots again, showing the surface of the Earth absorbing 1 unit of radiant energy per minute. If we copy the 2 lines representing the Earth's surface at different angles to the incoming radiant energy, we basically get a representation of the absorbed energy density. And in this final slide, we wrap it all up. I'm sure you can see that in the angled line, the same amount of radiant energy must heat a larger area. This means that each square foot of the Earth's surface that is angled away from the Sun receives less energy, and therefore is warmed less. Anyone experienced with solar panels will already know this. To get the most electricity out of a solar panel, it should receive direct sunlight at a 90-degree angle. Okay, Eric, there you go. I hope this helped you to understand that the angle of incidence of the incoming radiant energy is more significant than being a few million miles closer or farther away from the Sun. And let's not forget the biggest factor. Increased daylight hours results in more warming. Reduced daylight hours results in reduced warming. And both of these are predicted with a model that specifies a rotating planet with a tilted axis. All right, back to Eric's babbling, I guess.
Thomas Winship said, "The Earth is a stretched out structure which diverges from the central north in all directions towards the south. The equator, being midway between the north center and the southern circumference, divides the course of the Sun into north and south declination. The longest circle around the world which the Sun makes is when it has reached its greatest southern declination. Gradually going northwards, the circle is contracted. In about 3 months after the southern extremity of its path has been reached, the Sun makes a circle round the equator. Still pursuing a northerly course as it goes round and above the world, in another 3 months the greatest northern declination is reached, when the Sun again begins to go towards the south. In north latitudes, when the Sun is going north, it rises earlier each day, is higher at noon, and sets later, while in southern latitudes at the same time, the Sun as a matter of course rises later, reaches a lesser altitude at noon, and sets earlier. In northern latitudes, during the southern summer, say from September to December, the Sun rises later each day, is lower at noon, and sets earlier, while in the south he rises earlier, reaches a higher altitude at noon, and sets later each day. This movement round the earth daily is the cause of the alternations of day and night, while his northerly and southerly courses produce the seasons."
Okay, I hope you're all able to follow all of that. According to Eric, once again quoting from very old, very wrong books, when it's summer north of the equator, the Sun is zipping along the small orange circle in this picture, the Tropic of Cancer. At the equinoxes, it's flying happily above the somewhat larger red circle. And when it's summer south of the equator, it sails most joyously above the much larger yellow circle, the Tropic of Capricorn. So it's not enough that we have to accept a Sun hovering in the sky due to buoyancy, I guess, and moving in a circle for no good reason, according to their non-model. We now have to accept that the Sun changes its speed in order to traverse each circle in the same 24-hour period.
When the Sun is south of the equator, it is summer in the south and winter in the north, and vice versa. The fact of the alternation of the seasons flatly contradicts the Newtonian delusion that the Earth revolves in an orbit around the Sun.
Well, first, there is no Newtonian delusion, and second, it's already been explained to you what causes these seasons. I know this because you said it a little bit earlier.
It is said that summer is caused by the Earth being nearest the Sun, and winter by its being farthest from the Sun.
Ooh, hold on there, Zippy. I don't think anyone says that. I believe that would be a straw man argument.
But if the reader will follow the argument in any textbook, he will see that according to the theory, when the Earth is nearest the Sun, there must be summer in both northern and southern latitudes, and in like manner, when it is farthest from the Sun, it must be winter all over the Earth at the same time, because the whole of the globe Earth would then be farthest from the Sun. In short, it is impossible to account for the recurrence of seasons on the assumption that the Earth is globular and that it revolves in an orbit around the Sun.
Well, looks like someone's been reading the wrong textbooks. No one says that the change in seasons is caused by the Earth's distance from the Sun. We've gone over this.
Gabrielle Henriette said, "The essential feature of the year is its division into two equal periods of 6 months, based first on the predominating length of the days over that of the nights, and vice versa, conditions which are governed by the varying hours of sunrise and sunset, and secondly, by the either high or low height reached by the sun in the heavens at midday. The first cycle, during which the days are longer than the nights, and the sun reaches its culminating point of the year, extends from the spring equinox to the autumn equinox, i.e. March 21st to September 22nd, and the second cycle, during which, inversely, the duration of the nights exceeds that of the days, and the sun descends to its lowest point of the year, extends from the autumn equinox to the spring equinox, i.e. September 23rd to March 20th. These two 6-month periods are also characterized by an opposition of temperature. During the first cycle, which corresponds to spring and summer, the heat gradually rises and falls, while during the second cycle, which comprises autumn and winter, it is the intensity of the cold which progressively increases and decreases."
Okay, Eric, are you trying to put us to sleep, or does your target audience really need you to define summer and winter for them?
If the Earth were truly a globe, the Arctic and Antarctic polar regions and areas of comparable latitude north and south of the equator should share similar conditions and characteristics such as comparable temperatures, seasonal changes, length of daylight, plant and animal life. In reality, however, the Arctic and Antarctic regions and areas of comparable latitude north and south of the equator differ greatly in many ways.
Actually, for the most part, they are pretty similar. I suspect, however, there's a lot of variables you're not taking into account. Ocean currents, air currents, things of that sort. As for your requirement that plant and animal life be similar, evolution and migratory patterns are in no way obligated to meet your expectations.
Thomas Winship says, "If the Earth be the globe of popular belief, the same amount of heat and cold, summer and winter, should be experienced at the same latitudes north and south of the equator. The same number of plants and animals would be found, and the same general conditions exist. That the very opposite is the case disproves the globular assumption."
Okay, the very opposite is not the case, and as for everything that came before that, asked and answered.
The great contrasts between places at the same latitudes north and south of the equator is a strong argument against the received doctrine of the rotundity of the Earth.
Once again, asked and answered. For the next 5 minutes or so, Eric drones on and on about the subtle differences here and there on the planet. I see no reason we should have to listen to that. If you really want to, the video will be linked in the description. Feel free. Enjoy yourself.
In the flat Earth model of the cosmos, these Arctic and Antarctic phenomena are easily accounted for and exactly what would be expected. If the sun circles over and around the Earth every 24 hours, steadily traveling from tropic to tropic every 6 months, it follows that the northern, central region would annually receive far more heat and sunlight than the southern circumferential region. Since the sun must sweep over the larger southern region in the same 24 hours it has to pass over the smaller northern region, its passage must necessarily be proportionally faster as well.
Oh, look at that. Eric actually mentions the sun has to speed up when it's circling the Tropic of Capricorn. Although he offers no mechanism by which it would do so. Also, it should be noted that the sun does not speed up at any time during the year, or slow down for that matter. Its angular motion is always the same.
This is why the Antarctic morning dawn and evening twilight are very abrupt, whereas in extreme north, twilight continues for hours after sunset, and many midsummer nights the sun does not set at all. Dr. Samuel Robotham said, "If the sun is fixed and the earth revolves underneath it, the same phenomena would exist at the same distance on each side of the equator. But such is not the case. What can operate to cause the twilight in New Zealand to be so much more sudden, or the nights so much colder than in England? The southern hemisphere cannot revolve more rapidly than the northern. The latitudes are about the same, and the distance round a globe would be the same at 50 degrees south as at 50 degrees north, and as the whole would revolve once in 24 hours, the surface at the two places would pass underneath the sun with the same velocity, and the light would approach in the morning and recede in the evening in exactly the same manner.
Complementary latitudes north and south of the equator do generally have similar seasonal daylight hours. Bear in mind, though, that elevation must also be taken into account. Higher elevations will have slightly longer periods of daylight than at sea level at the same latitude. Oh, and it seems old Eric is still denying that the midnight sun occurs in Antarctica. Maybe we should hook him up with someone at McMurdo.
The two hemispheres would at the same latitudes have the same degree of light and heat, and the same general phenomena, both in kind and degree. The peculiarities which are found in the south as compared with the north are only such as could exist upon a stationary plane, having a northern center, concentric with which is the path of the moving sun.
No, that's not the case. You use the word peculiarities, in other words, variations from the norm. Except where affected by ocean or persistent air current or elevation, temperatures in complementary northern and southern latitudes behave in a strikingly similar fashion. It's unwise to generate a hypothesis based on exception. Better to seek the reasons that the exceptions exist.
And William Carpenter wrote, "Every year the sun is as long south of the equator as he is north, and if the earth were not stretched out as it is, in fact, but turned under, as the Newtonian theory suggests, it would certainly get as intensive a share of the sun's rays south as north. But the southern region being, in consequence of the fact stated, far more extensive than the region north, the sun, having to complete his journey round every 24 hours, travels quicker as he goes further south, from September to December, and his influence has less time in which to accumulate at any given point. Since, then, the facts could not be as they are if the earth were a globe, it is a proof that the earth is not a globe."
No, it isn't. It's not a proof at all. Most of this seems to be based on your assertion that the Tropic of Capricorn is just immensely larger than the Tropic of Cancer. Oddly enough, that's not the case either. Both the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn are both pretty damn close to 36,768 kilometers in circumference. Kind of shoots your whole hypothesis in the ass, doesn't it? Well, wasn't that fun? Believe it or not, I clipped out a lot of the repetitive stuff. Also, I should probably mention why I say the Flat Earth crowd doesn't really have a model. This is because when constructing a model, it should represent the reality it attempts to model, and it should be internally consistent. Any Flat Earth model I've seen fails both of these requirements. Any I've seen are more ad hoc collections of mainly bad attempts to wedge in observed reality. In many cases, the solutions provided contradict other solutions. Using any flat Earth model, for example, sunrises and sunsets cannot be predicted where they appear in reality. That's kind of one of the main purposes of models, to make predictions, accurate ones. Well, that's about it for this episode. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. If there's anything you didn't like about this video, please make sure I know about it by making comments below. That way I can be sure that future videos continue to improve and are more to your liking. Anyway, once again, thanks, and I'll see you next time.